नारी को हम ना शक्ति का रूप मानते हैं. That is, she is the one who can create or can destroy. A seed of a tree, it is so small in a size, but when nurtured, it can grow into a sapling. Further protected, it grows into a full-blown tree, which is beautiful and can bear all the adversities. That is the strength of a woman.
Amazing work in some of the areas which are really like hard-hitting realities of India. When we talk about poverty, when we talk about women in the unorganized sector, these are some of the things which are often, I feel, underrepresented, and it doesn't come to the mainstream discourse.
Despite having a similar nature of work, the women who are working in the unorganized sector, the men and the women wage differential is nothing short of 20 to 30%.
It's one question that does come up from here and there is, इससे क्या बदलेगा? Research से क्या बदलेगा? कुछ बदलेगा?
Because whatever you're doing, the change is gradual. But the journey, when it is appreciated, there's a change. Child Labour Act was there that prevents the economic engagement of a child up to the 14 years of age. But it had a loophole in that act.
Many believe that marriage marks the end of a woman's professional ambitions or her career. But some women prove that this is just a comma and not a full stop in the bigger story. Dr. Rachita Rana is one of these women because she started her career, completed her higher education after building her family. She went on to become an accomplished researcher and a leader in higher education, and she's currently working as a director at IITM Delhi. The work that she has done is amazing because her research really dives deep into some of the hard-hitting realities of India. Her work focuses on poverty, struggles of the working women in the unorganized sector, and the overall economics that shapes our lives, and the silent battles that are fought by those who are at the margins. From lecture halls to research papers to mentoring young minds to influencing policy decisions, her journey is remarkable. Her journey is a proof that it's never too late to rise, to learn, and to lead. Hi everyone, so let's welcome Dr. Rachita Rana on our show today. Hello, ma'am. How are you? Welcome to the show.
Hello, Neha. Thank you for having me on your show. It is my pleasure to be here.
We're really grateful and excited to learn so much from your journey. You could just introduce yourself very briefly to all our viewers today.
Neha, I'm Professor Rachita Rana with a complete journey of approximately 28 years in research, academics, and now into academic administration. My basic area of research has been gender studies. I did my master's in economics, then postdoctorate fellowship, especially all into women areas and the gender specializations. I have more than 60 papers published, various awards to my credit.
Thank you, ma'am. Thanks again. Welcome to the show. It's really amazing आपने जो काम किया है, research करी है, and we'll be obviously talking more about it. But before we dive deep into that, I want to start like with your journey. You built your career. You completed your higher education after your marriage. And a lot of women, they think कि शादी के बाद, that's the end, of the road. They struggle to have it all. So if you could just talk a little bit about that, how did you, what was your motivation? What kept you going when you were starting and building your career, and now you've reached, you're now in the leadership of an institute. So if you could just talk a little bit about your early days.
See, Neha, when we talk about the role of a woman, it is very dynamic. A woman first is a mother, a sister, she's a friend, a spouse, and then the support of the family and fulfilling all these roles takes her to the leadership positions. When I started my journey, it was just a higher secondary student into marriage. But the entire journey of my education and my professional growth was with the support of my friends, my family. See, ultimately, the women definitely faces challenges, be it the journey when I started or even today, because there are certain roles which the only women can play.
Yeah.
So sometimes you have to de-role yourself. You have to raise the children amidst all the social systems. So yes, the journey has been very inspiring, but would not have been possible without the support of my family, my friends.
That's really amazing. Do you have like any particular advice to women who might not know like what's the way forward, or who might just struggle to strike a balance? Something that you have to say to all those young women.
See, as a woman, first we must understand what is empowerment. See, empowerment basically is the process of increasing one's capacity or one's professionalism or one's knowledge. And it helps you transform those choices into the actions and the outcomes. And especially when we say with respect to the woman, and in India particularly, नारी को हम ना शक्ति का रूप मानते हैं. That is, she is the one who can create or can destroy. She has a fire within.
Yeah.
कहते हैं ना जो नारी के अंदर जो एक शक्ति होती है, that needs to be respected. So every woman, see, marriage institutionalization is one aspect, but you must respect that fire within you. It comes with your determination. You have to be persuasive. And the most important thing is the right attitude. That means you have to respect each role that is there.
Now I want to talk a little bit about the work that you have done. So in terms of research, you have some amazing work in some of the areas which are really like hard-hitting realities of India. When we talk about poverty, when we talk about women in the unorganized sector. So I want to understand that what were some of what actually drew you to this research? Why did you think that you have to focus on gender studies and this work and this research field?
Interaction that I started my journey very young. And this was primarily because when I got exposed to the various challenges that the women were facing, I used to observe that these women who were working pan-India, be it organized or the unorganized sector, they were experiencing it. But with respect to the organized sector, especially in India, what drove me towards the research in this area was that 90% of the workforce in India is engaged in unorganized sectors. And the women, particularly, are disproportionately represented. There is low-paid nature of the jobs that they perform. There is a lot of insecurity. This is, I'm talking about when I started my journey of research in late 90s. They were working for nothing short of 9 to 10 hours. So this is what led me to move into research in this area. In the various platforms, the people talked about it. There was a lot of debates then on the formal sectors, but to voice the informal sectors, especially the women, it was insignificant. So this is what drove me to move into the documentations, voice the voices of the invisible, though having a very significant contribution.
So that's really amazing, the kind of work that you have done. And you have also published few books. I want to know, I actually always wonder this, that how much time it takes to publish a book, how much effort is required, how much research goes into it. So if you could just talk to us from the author's perspective, your journey publishing a book.
When I started doing my research, initially, I first took up the girl child labor. Because what happened is, that time when we were young, the young girls used to accompany the mother, especially for the domestic work or on the construction sites. These small girls used to assist the mother maybe by picking up one odd brick or small stones or small sort of construction material in small packets. But when I gradually probed into these paradoxes, that these women who were the breadwinners in the major construction sectors or in the being self-employed or in the domestic sector, they were having very typical characteristics. One is the migration complexities. And secondly, the insecurity, because when I used to talk to the women that why do you bring these children? Because these children also represented a very specific characteristics, like they were dropouts from the schools. They were not going to schools. Then they became the laboring children, which hindered in their physical development as a child. It hindered their emotional, their psychological development. So they said, ma'am, the prime reason to which we are forced that they should accompany us is the security of these girl child. If they leave them back at home, they
Yeah.
could be sexually exploited. So that this further led me to probe more into it. And then my research moved from the child labor to the women working in the unorganized sector. I wanted to understand more in detail, not only getting the situational analysis of the girl child labor, because then it moved into the women who were working in the unorganized sector. They started also bringing forward their typical characteristics. For them, the challenge became the men control. The women who are from these sectors are basically from the marginalized groups. And the men in these communities, they are dominating the women's voice.
Yeah.
So I had to first engage with the men, give them the confidence that I am just going to voice them and help in some policy implications. So these aspects, that their voting rights should be given to them, they should have the full access to their public distribution systems through the ration cards, or the schools should engage the children into the regular enrollments irrespective of the state they come from. From there, the journey further led into it, no. So that is what led me probe into these areas of my publications, where I specialize into gender studies. It became a purely inductive approach. I used to go to the field, have access to the information, because then came up the language barrier, the translation. So I could not engage any research associate or a field investigator, because my entire data had to be corroborated with the observations simultaneously. There was a lot of ethical sensitivity also engaged in this.
Yeah.
Especially the respondents, they had to be protected from the brokers. Because see, unorganized sector, they get the work from the brokers, the agents. They bring them the work from the employers. So these women, they were very vulnerable. They had to be protected. That no, I give you assurance, your confidentiality of information would be maintained. Because they were revealing the facts of the employers, which did have a legal gap. So those problems were there. So this is what led my study to become more longitudinal. The role of the NGOs or the local bodies had also to be taken care by local leaders. So even in these women, if you go to the ground, they have certain local leaders who voice them or gets them the work. Something like a union.
Yeah.
वो कहते हैं ना, ये लोग जो होते हैं ये उनके छत्र छाया में काम करते हैं, क्योंकि डर है, there is ignorance. So you had to deal with these leaders as well. Both, they were men and women both. This is how my research moved into it. So it is longitudinal journey of almost 20 plus years.
That's a lot of effort that you've seriously put in.
Yes.
And we'll talk more about this research, specifically about the girl child labor and the vulnerabilities that you just mentioned. We'll explore more. But I want to understand, like, you know, you have actually been born and brought up, I believe, in like a metro, right? I don't know if you've seen the rural life, but when you did this research, unorganized sector and also semi-urban, I suppose. So what were some of the surprises that came to you, you know, during the course of this research? If just like one or two that you can list, which a lot of people who are in the metro would not know about these ground realities.
Neha, I had the privilege of being brought up in the urban areas and in the metros. But after marriage, my family, my in-laws, were totally in the remote rural areas. So when I shifted there, I could experience the reality of the rural areas as well as the urban areas. See, this divide of the rural-urban, especially in the unorganized sector, is prevalent. But when we talk about the role of the woman, the nature or the characteristics of the unorganized sector is very similar. There is low payments, but one thing that is very, very typical about the rural areas is the women that they are working there, they are getting an access to certain microfinance as beneficiaries also. But then, being a male dominant society, especially in the northern India, this finance got diverted to meet the family emergencies or to meet the social norms or a marriage. So the actual beneficiary that the women had to go for the financial inclusion, that was not addressed. So they again were left with no option but to migrate to the urban areas. Second major aspects of the rural segment was that the women who were engaged in the rural sector were more agricultural workforce. So when they were working in the agricultural sector, it has a very seasonal nature of the job engagements. They get the casual work. But then how to meet the necessities of the seasons where they're not getting the job? Again, this forces them to migrate with their husbands as workforce that they supplement in the construction sector, or they get engaged as small street vendors, and they are definitely exploited with wage disparities. And despite having a similar nature of work, the women who are working in the unorganized sector, the men and the women wage differential is nothing short of 20 to 30%. This is a factual data even given by the Labor Bureau statistics, that
Yes.
the women doing the same nature of work, both even in the unorganized sector, have this discrimination. So that is there.
Okay, that's great, especially about the discrimination that you have mentioned, which prevails in the unorganized sector as well. Is there something that the government can do to kind of correct this situation?
Talk about the government's role, let me start my input with a quote. So, woman is like a tea bag, and she never knows her strength unless until she is put in a hot water. And that is where, when the diffusion starts, she knows her strength. This is a beautiful quote given by Roosevelt E. that woman has that much strength, but when she is exposed to the challenges, her true strength emerges. And that is where, when you come into this, the policy implications that I talk about, the government has to play a very major role. What they have to do is, they must provide the awareness programs. They must bridge the gap that the women who are working in the unorganized sector are primarily engaged with this unskilled nature. So if some sort of formal skill could be provided, it will be beneficial to them. And now, whatever they produce as handicrafts or in a home-based industry, if that could be formally marketed, that will get them better returns economically. Not only this, the government can provide the urban amenities in the rural areas. So all these initiatives, or when the banks are disbursing the microcredits, that should be done in a phased manner with a proper feedback, so that the beneficiary gets the full benefit of the financial inclusion. Yes, yes.
So, ma'am, those are some really good points that you have brought up. So, I want to know, when you started your journey, your research, that was, I think, in the late 90s. And now there would have been like some changes or some really good policies or schemes that have come up that the government has brought in over a period of time. Is that something that you'd like to talk and share?
See, when we were doing our research, we used to give the future implication that there should be some social security benefits extended to the women. Not only the social security benefits, the benefits that the women workers in the unorganized sector could not enjoy, but their counterparts in the organized sector were enjoying, like maternity benefits, paid leaves, gratuity. So that is a time when we had given these suggestions for the future policy implications. So this journey, when it started in 96, 97, and this got its formalization of the Unorganized Social Security Act in 2008. But even if I talk of today, when I go with the facts, though it is there on papers, but even when we stand in 2025, there is an improvement, but still a lot needs to be done. Another example, see, the Child Labor Act was there that prevents the economic engagement of a child up to the 14 years of age. But it had a loophole in that act, which subsequently got amended in 2016. The loophole was the segregation or the differentiation was done from the working child and the laboring child. When the Child Labor Act came, it stated that the child could work in the home-based or with the family. But the exploitation was the women who were working within the family or the home-based industries, they started engaging their children, especially the girl child. Because when they were giving the maximum output, they were being the breadwinners or invisible hands, as economically they had to support their families. The young child used to do some contribution and take care of the younger children of the family so that the women could earn more. And they were then exploited. They were not sent to schools, or they had to do their domestic chores.
Yeah, so here you've mentioned a very good point about girl child labor, and you have done incredible work. Um, these are some of the things which are often, I feel, underrepresented, and it doesn't come to the mainstream discourse. And now, since we are talking about girl child labor, could you talk to us more about this, and what are some of the eye-opening findings that you can share with everybody? And some of the things that the government needs to do in order to, you know, make this better, I would say, in terms of the current situation.
See, when I have to give you this takeaway, we have to humanize the realities. One is just bringing up the policies or documenting it. That is one aspect. But when you empathetically deal with it, as a conscious citizen, why should I engage a girl, a child who is 14 years or has yet not developed as a normal human emotionally, socially, or psychologically? See, I'm responsible as a human, and especially being a woman. So the charity begins at home. I should not engage it myself in employing or engaging any young child or an adolescent child. If at all, I'm in a position to handhold them, engage them in formal skill training. See, now the education policy, when I'm into an administrative role, the government has come up with skill programs. So you can engage in any formal skill acquisition, get a certification, earn and live your living. Government has even come up with the policy that there is going to be no differentiation with a regular education, online education, or if you acquire an education degree or any certification through distance learning, if that is there. So let these girls have an access to these courses.
Let's talk about another very hard-hitting reality of our country, which is poverty. How has the nature of poverty changed, specifically in the last 2 decades? What do you think? What's the data around it, and how have things changed? How's the narrative changed?
See, poverty initially, when we started our inputs, was more income driven. That means we used to say if a person is earning less than the benchmark laid down, is called the person below the poverty line. So it was income poverty or deficient in the nutritional intake in terms of the calories. But now when we see there is one change is the poverty has become multidimensional. It is having an access to the education. It is having an access to the health facilities. So the vulnerabilities have become multidimensional. It is not only just fixed to the income-based poverty. Having an quality of life, we are talking about their living conditions. We are talking about their working conditions. So all this has changed. So poverty from 1996, when I started into it, and today has shifted from income or calorie deficit to the multidimensional aspects, which is very good. Because ultimately, a healthy body will have a healthy mind, and a healthy mind is able to contribute to the most effective decision and strategic thinking.
Great. So, are there any significant government schemes that have really moved the needle? Would you like to talk about one or two such schemes?
Yes, there are certain schemes, but now government also wants to break the gender stereotyping. There are certain schemes, especially having a beneficiaries of the rural areas. Kisan Yojana is there, or what we say Pradhan Mantri Kisan Samman Nidhi is there. There is to give them a quality in terms of their living conditions. There is Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana is there. A special startup scheme has started as Mudra, where women are being engaged for the financial inclusion. They are getting easy credit facilities are there. And with respect to the health, what the government has done, they are giving them the rupees 5 lakh health coverage under Ayushman Bharat. So all these things, there are certain policy initiatives which are having very good impact, especially for the workers in the unorganized sector. This is having an access not only for the women, but for all.
Great. Great to know that that there is great work that is being done in this field, especially in terms of the government schemes that you just mentioned. Now, I have a question which I get asked a lot because I am also doing research which is on diversity. And when I go to the participants, one question that does come up from here and there is, "Isse kya badlega?" Research se kya badlega? Kuch badlega kya? And that is my question to you. While I always scramble to find, a decent answer, but I feel like um, जो पहली चीज बदलेगी, first thing that will change would be my nazariya, my point of view, and perhaps it would pave some way for future research. But I'd like to understand from you. If you were asked the same question with all the research that you have done, you mentioned policy implication. You could talk a little bit more about how it has bridged the gap between a research and on-ground impact.
When I talk about that, the change then and now, see, whenever there is a success or there is a change, it is with a mission. Because success itself is a mission. It has to be proportionate to the energy that is infused into it. बदलेगा, जरूर बदलेगा. आजकल की अगर लड़की है वो वॉइस करती है, no, I talk about I need a weekly off. And now we appreciate it. Yes, she needs a weekly off. And we respect that. Even in the unorganized sector, there is lot of inputs with respect to their sensitization on their maternity benefits. We give them the paid leaves also. Because whatever you're doing, the change is gradual. The journey, when it is appreciated, there's a change. Every girl today is having an access to the digital platform. That means she becomes aware about the environment. Initially, the men in the family were giving them the inputs, but now she can voice it. She has access to the digital platforms. But yes, the gap still continues. If I talk about this gap, there is a government e-Shram portal. The registration of the women is much less in compared to the men who are getting registered on these platforms as on the Shram portals. But then there is a significant improvement in these areas. So there is definitely now a shift. The women are contributing towards their developmental aspects. They don't need to be empowered. They are already empowered now. Now their role has to shift to contribute to the nation development. And how this is going to happen is they have now got information, knowledge, awareness, exposure they are able to assimilate these things, which has resulted in the wisdom. And this wisdom is helping them take decisions, be it in family matters, or have an economic voice, or improving their overall work environment. So there is definitely a change that is happening around.
That's really reassuring. So it's the zarur badlega, right? Every step that you take, cumulatively over a period of time, there would be a change, and we'll see that. So to wrap up, I have a question about your journey. So going back to that, so you started your career as a researcher, and you were in teaching, and then you moved into administration. And I think this question would be really beneficial to all those people, especially women, who want to actually make a similar transition, becoming a director of an institute. Um, I think it takes a lot, like in terms of the leadership qualities, but I want to hear from you that what advice you have to give to all those women who want to follow your footsteps.
See, my journey from just being a young married girl, a homemaker, to being an administrator, it requires very specific inputs. One is you have to be determined. Most important is the determination. If you are determined to achieve your goal, you will achieve it. But then with determination comes the hard work. See, hard work, you have to manage, you have to be flexible. There would be times you have to maintain your work-life balance, but the perseverance has to be there. A positive energy has to be there within you. And we say, no, don't have stress. But no, to achieve the stress is important. Then only you are going to explore your potential, your capacity to grow. So from there, when I started moving into teaching, from a homemaker into being a teaching, it started giving me more empowerment. And these drivers further led me, no, I have to break into the man's world. That thing comes in because it is, in our era was stereotyped. No, directors, leadership roles, it's difficult for the women to go those extra miles, given those extra hours, because she has to take care of the family. She has a role of a mother. But no, today, when I do this, this comes with the support. And definitely, if the women today are supported, that is my humble submission to the youth, do support the women, the gender in your family, because they have the capacity to grow. It is something like if you see a seed of a tree, it is so small in a size, but when nurtured, it can grow into a sapling. Further protected, it grows into a full-blown tree, which is beautiful and can bear all the adversities. That is the strength of a woman. So from the journey when it comes as an administrator, I definitely empathize that, yes, I have moved into this world and give it back to the society.
Wow, thank you so much. It's really inspiring even to me. And I'm sure that all the people who have watched us till the end would have really taken a lot of key takeaways and a lot of inspiration from your journey. And I hope they take it back into their life. Thank you again, ma'am, for joining us and sharing your wonderful journey with us. Thank you.
So my last submission to you, Neha, would be know yourself. Every woman should know thyself and take the decision for yourself, be it physically, be it emotionally, be it psychologically or intellectually, because this is going to help you effectively explore yourself, experience, and express your own actions. Thank you so much for having me here on the show.
Thank you so much for watching us till the end. I really hope that you found value in this conversation. Please like, subscribe, and share this with someone who needs to hear this. Please let us know what you like the most about today's conversation. I always believe that we do not have to look far for inspiration because there are so many incredibly inspiring stories all around us that no one else sees the world the way you do, so no one else can tell the stories that you have.